The first sign that Earth was no longer alone came at 3:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Radar stations across the globe lit up like Christmas trees as massive shapes emerged from the darkness of space. The objects were huge, larger than any aircraft carrier, and they moved with purpose toward the blue planet below. Admiral Cathvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the viewing screen. His crystalline skin reflected the soft light from the control panels as he studied the primitive world. Intelligence reports had been clear about this species. They called themselves humans, and they would make excellent slaves for the Galactic Consortium. The Zephyrians had done this 17 times before. Each world had fallen within days, sometimes hours. The pattern was always the same. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, collect the strongest specimens for labor, and leave the rest to serve as breeding stock. Simple and efficient. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison was having the worst morning of his life. The coffee in his NORAD command center had gone cold hours ago as he stared at the impossible readings on his screens. 17 massive objects hung in space above major population centers. They were not responding to any communication attempts. "Sir, we're getting something," his communications officer called out. "It's coming through on all frequencies." The voice that filled the command center was cold and mechanical. It spoke in broken English, as if the speaker had learned the language from old textbooks. "People of Earth, your world now belongs to the Galactic Consortium. You will serve. Fighting back will only cause pain. Prepare for collection." Jake felt his blood run cold. Collection. The word made it sound like they were harvesting crops, not dealing with human beings. 3,000 miles away in Atlanta, Dr. Lisa Harper was recording every second of the alien broadcast. As the leading expert on animal behavior at the CDC, she had been called in to analyze these new visitors. What she heard in their voice troubled her deeply. "They sound so confident," she told her assistant, Kevin Moore. "Like they've done this before and never had anyone fight back." Kevin looked up from his computer. "Maybe no one ever has." Lisa shook her head. "Then they don't know humans very well." In the mountains of Montana, Ben Cole was fixing a fence when the sky changed. The former Navy SEAL had seen combat in 3 different countries before coming home to ranch his family's land. He knew the look of an invasion force when he saw one. The alien ship that appeared over Denver was sleek and beautiful, like a piece of art made from liquid metal. But Ben knew beauty could be deadly. He watched through binoculars as smaller craft dropped from the main ship toward the city below. The harvester ships moved slowly over downtown Denver, dropping energy nets that glowed blue in the morning light. The nets were designed to scoop up groups of people like a fisherman gathering his catch. But something went wrong with their first attempt. Instead of cowering in terror, the people of Denver fought back. Police officers fired their weapons at the nets. Construction workers threw tools and chunks of concrete. Even children picked up rocks and hurled them upward. The nets sparked and fizzled under the unexpected assault. One harvester ship took a direct hit from a news helicopter that had been filming the event. The pilot, a former Army aviator named Rick Hayes, had decided that ramming the alien craft was better than watching it take innocent people. The explosion sent both aircraft tumbling to the ground, but the alien ship was badly damaged. The Zephyrians pulled back, confused by what they had witnessed. In 17 previous conquests, no species had immediately attacked their collection ships. Most had hidden or begged for mercy. These humans were different. Admiral Cathvar reviewed the reports with growing irritation. His forces had expected to collect 50,000 humans in the first day. Instead, they had captured fewer than 100 and lost 3 harvester ships. In the process, the intelligence reports were wrong, his tactical officer reported. This species shows immediate aggressive response to capture attempts. Cathvar studied the recordings of the failed collection. In every case, humans had attacked without hesitation. Some used primitive weapons, others used tools or even their bare hands. It made no sense. They had to know they were completely outmatched. "Fear makes some species unpredictable," Cathvar finally said. "We will adjust our methods. Increase the power of the collection nets and deploy ground forces to support the harvesters." Back on Earth, Word of the Denver incident spread rapidly across social media and news networks. The image of humans fighting back against impossible odds inspired others. Military forces around the world began preparing for what everyone knew would come next. Dr. Harper worked through the night analyzing the alien technology from the crashed harvester. The metal was unlike anything on Earth, but it had been damaged by simple kinetic force. The energy nets had been disrupted by electrical interference from human devices. They're advanced, but not invincible. She told the emergency council that had been formed to coordinate Earth's response. Their technology seems designed for dealing with cooperative subjects, not active resistance. Captain Morrison coordinated with military leaders worldwide, sharing intelligence and preparing defenses. The aliens had shown their hand, but they had also revealed weaknesses. The collection ships were vulnerable to attack, and their nets could be disrupted. In Montana, Ben Cole was not waiting for official orders. He had spent the day contacting every veteran, hunter, and outdoorsman in the state. If the aliens wanted a fight, they would get one. The American spirit had been forged by people who refused to bow down to anyone, whether they were British kings or alien invaders. The first day of contact ended with both sides preparing for war. The Zephyrians had expected an easy conquest and found determined resistance. The humans had faced impossible odds and discovered they could fight back. As night fell over Earth, Admiral Kethvar prepared new assault plans. These humans would learn to fear Zephyrian might. Resistance would be crushed and the collection would continue. But in cities and towns across the planet, humans were making their own plans. They cleaned their weapons, built barriers, and shared what they had learned about alien weaknesses. The invaders had made one critical error in their intelligence reports. They had failed to understand that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute refusal to surrender even when defeat seemed certain. The aliens had come to Earth expecting to find slaves. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous. They had awakened the human spirit. The second wave came at dawn. This time, the aliens were not taking chances. Ground forces accompanied the harvester ships, and the energy nets glowed brighter with increased power. Admiral Kethvar had decided that a show of overwhelming force would break human resistance once and for all. He was wrong. In New York City, Marine Colonel Rick Hayes crouched behind an overturned bus as alien soldiers advanced down Broadway. The creatures were tall and thin, with crystalline skin that reflected light like broken glass. Their weapons fired beams of red energy that could melt through steel, but they moved in rigid formations that Hayes recognized from his years of military training. They fight like robots, he radioed to his scattered forces. Predictable patterns, no improvisation. Use the buildings, stay mobile, and hit them from angles they don't expect. Hayes had learned something important in the first day of fighting. Human weapons could damage the aliens if they hit the right spots. Their armor was strong but had gaps at the joints. More importantly, the creatures seemed confused by guerrilla tactics. They had been trained to fight organized armies, not desperate, humans using every dirty trick in the book. 6 blocks away, Dr. Lisa Harper was studying pieces of alien equipment that had been brought to her makeshift laboratory in the basement of Mount Sinai Hospital. She had made a discovery that could change everything. "Kevin, look at this," she called to her assistant. "The neural interface on their weapons requires specific brainwave patterns to function properly." Kevin leaned over her shoulder to examine the alien device. It looked like a combination of computer chip and living tissue, pulsing with its own internal light. "They're telepathic," Lisa continued. "But human thoughts are chaotic compared to theirs. Our minds work differently. When a human tries to use their technology, it's like trying to tune a radio through static." This explained why the aliens seemed so confident in their technology. Any species they had conquered before must have had ordered predictable thought patterns. Humans, with their creativity and chaos, were something they had never encountered. In Silicon Valley, Alex Chen was leading a different kind of resistance. The former MIT professor had gathered the brightest engineers and programmers he could find in a fortified compound that had once been a tech startup office. They were working around the clock to understand alien technology. Their computers use quantum processing, but the interface is biological, Alex explained to his team. If we can figure out how to translate human neural patterns into something their systems can understand, we might be able to turn their own weapons against them. It was dangerous work. 3 volunteers had already suffered severe neural feedback trying to interface with alien devices. But Alex knew that understanding the enemy's technology was crucial for long-term survival. Meanwhile, in the heartland of America, Ben Cole was proving that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. His network of hunters, farmers, and veterans was using tactics that would have been familiar to their great-grandfathers who fought in World War II. The aliens had established a processing facility in an abandoned factory outside Kansas City. Ben led a raid that freed over 300 humans who were being prepared for transport off-world. What they found inside the facility made him sick to his stomach. The humans were being sorted like cattle. The strong ones were marked for heavy labor. Those with technical skills were designated for complex manufacturing. The attractive ones were labeled for what the aliens called recreational purposes. Children were being separated from parents for optimal behavioral conditioning. They don't see us as people, Ben told his second-in-command, a former Army Ranger named Steve Williams. To them, we're just animals to be used however they want. Steve spat in the dirt. Then they're about to learn that these animals have teeth. The raid on the Kansas facility taught the humans something important about their enemy. The Zephyrians were following a standard protocol, a playbook they had used on 17 other worlds. They expected resistance to collapse within days as the population realized the futility of fighting back. But humans refused to follow the script. Captain Jake Morrison coordinated the global resistance from his command bunker deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. Intelligence was flowing in from around the world, and the picture was becoming clearer. The aliens had superior technology, but they lacked flexibility. Every action followed predetermined patterns. They're like chess players who have memorized all the opening moves, Jake told his staff. But they've never played against someone who ignores the rules of chess entirely. Reports from London showed that former SAS operative Pete Walsh had successfully ambushed an alien patrol using tactics learned in Afghanistan. In Tokyo, a group of Yakuza had turned their knowledge of urban warfare against the invaders. In Moscow, Ivan Petrov was leading farmers and factory workers in attacks that the aliens couldn't predict or counter. Dr. Harper achieved a breakthrough when she successfully created a device that could disrupt alien neural interfaces. The prototype was crude, barely larger than a briefcase, but field tests showed it could disable alien weapons within a 50-foot radius. It works by generating the kind of chaotic neural static that human brains produce naturally, she explained, to the Joint Chiefs via secure video link. To them, it's like being surrounded by screaming feedback. Alex Chen's team made their own breakthrough when they successfully hacked into an alien communication array. The intelligence they gathered was both encouraging and terrifying. The good news was that Earth was being invaded by only a small expeditionary force. The bad news was that this force was just the first wave. They're testing us, Alex reported. If we prove too difficult to conquer, they'll call in the main fleet. But if we can defeat this force completely, we might convince them that Earth isn't worth the trouble. The war was entering a new phase. Humans were no longer just defending themselves. They were learning, adapting, and beginning to fight back effectively. The aliens' rigid military doctrine was proving to be a weakness against human unpredictability. Admiral Kethfar reviewed the daily reports with growing frustration. Casualties among his forces were mounting, and human resistance was getting stronger, not weaker. His superiors in the consortium were beginning to ask uncomfortable questions about why a primitive species was proving so difficult to subdue. The breaking point came when a joint operation led by Colonel Hayes in New York and Ben Cole's network in the Midwest successfully destroyed a Zephyrian mothership. The massive vessel had been providing support for ground operations when human forces managed to overload its power systems, using a combination of captured alien weapons and homemade explosives. The explosion lit up the sky for hundreds of miles, and the psychological impact was enormous. Humans around the world looked up and saw that the invaders were not invincible. The aliens could be hurt, their ships could be destroyed, and victory was possible. For the first time since arriving at Earth, Admiral Kethvar felt something his species rarely experienced. Doubt crept into his crystalline features as he realized that these humans were unlike any species the consortium had ever encountered. The intelligence reports had been completely wrong. These creatures were not suitable for slavery at all. They were something far more dangerous. They were warriors who refused to admit defeat, even when faced with impossible odds. The war was far from over, but the balance was beginning to shift. Humanity had survived the initial shock and was learning to fight back. The aliens had expected to find slaves, but had instead awakened something they were not prepared to handle. They had awakened humanity's will to be free. 3 months after the invasion began, Earth had become a very different world. The major cities lay in ruins, but humanity had not surrendered. Instead, they had learned to adapt, to hide, and most importantly, to strike back at their alien oppressors with increasing effectiveness. Dr. Lisa Harper's laboratory was now hidden deep in an abandoned mine shaft in the Colorado Rockies. Her neural disruption device had evolved from a crude prototype into a weapon that could disable entire squads of alien soldiers. The latest version was small enough to be carried in a backpack and powerful enough to shut down alien technology within a quarter-mile radius. The key is understanding how their minds work, Lisa explained to Captain Jake Morrison during his visit to the hidden facility. They think in straight lines, logical patterns. Human consciousness is like a storm of random thoughts and emotions. When we force their technology to process our kind of thinking, it overloads. The first field test of the improved disruptor had taken place in the ruins of Washington, D.C., where Colonel Rick Hayes led a daring mission to reclaim the Lincoln Memorial from alien forces. The device worked better than anyone had hoped. Alien soldiers simply collapsed as their neural interfaces shut down, leaving them helpless and confused. It was like watching robots suddenly lose their programming. Hayes reported back to command. They didn't know what to do without their technology telling them how to think. In the remains of Silicon Valley, Alex Chen had achieved something that should have been impossible. His team of engineers and programmers had successfully reverse-engineered key components of alien technology. Working in hidden bunkers beneath the rubble of former tech companies, they had learned to hack into alien systems. Their security is based on the assumption that only their species can interface with their technology, Alex explained to his team of 30 volunteers. But we've found a way to fool their systems into accepting human neural patterns. The breakthrough came when Alex realized that alien technology could be tricked by feeding it artificial thought patterns that mimicked Zephyrian brain activity. It required incredible concentration and carried serious risks of neural damage, but it worked. The first human to successfully pilot a captured alien vessel was Maria Santos, a former Air Force pilot who had been grounded due to budget cuts. She nearly died in the attempt, suffering severe neural feedback that left her unconscious for 3 days. But when she woke up, she brought news that changed everything. I could access their navigation systems, Maria told the assembled resistance leaders. I know where their homeworld is located. More importantly, I know they're not as powerful as they pretend to be. The captured ship's databanks revealed the true scope of the Zephyrian Empire. They controlled dozens of worlds, but their military was spread thin across the galaxy. The force attacking Earth represented a significant portion of their available resources. Ben Cole's guerrilla network had grown into an international organization. Through secure communications, he coordinated with resistance cells across the globe. Former British SAS operator Pete Walsh led operations in Europe. In Russia, Ivan Petrov commanded farmers and factory workers who had turned their industrial knowledge into weapons of war. The network's greatest success came with the liberation of the massive processing facility that the aliens had built in the Australian outback. The joint operation involved resistance fighters from 4 continents and freed over 50,000 humans in a single coordinated strike. The aliens follow patterns, Ben explained to his commanders via encrypted video. Link. They build their facilities the same way every time. Post guards in the same positions follow the same schedules. Once we figured out their patterns, hitting them became almost routine. But the rescued humans brought disturbing intelligence. The aliens were not just collecting slaves. They were studying human biology, psychology, and social structures. The Zephyrians were learning too, adapting their methods to deal with human resistance. Captain Morrison coordinated the integration of captured alien technology with human military systems. The first hybrid weapons were crude but effective, capable of penetrating alien shields and armor. More importantly, human pilots were learning to fly captured alien craft. The training was dangerous. The alien bio-neural interfaces were never designed for human minds, and the feedback could cause permanent brain damage or death. But volunteers kept stepping forward, driven by the knowledge that mastering alien technology was essential for victory. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim was the first to successfully interface with an alien fighter craft without suffering major neural damage. Her secret was meditation techniques she had learned from her grandmother, focusing her chaotic human thoughts into something resembling Zephyrian mental patterns. "It's like learning to think in a completely different language," Sarah explained to other pilot candidates. "You have to quiet all the noise in your head and focus on single, clear thoughts. The aliens can't handle the way we normally think, so we have to learn to think like them." The resistance achieved its most significant victory when they successfully intercepted and destroyed Admiral Kethvar's personal transport. The alien commander had been traveling between Earth and his orbital command station when human fighters, using captured alien technology, ambushed his convoy. Kethvar survived the attack, but barely. More importantly, his ship's data cores provided a complete picture of Zephyrian military capabilities and strategic plans. The aliens had expected to complete the conquest of Earth within 6 months. Instead, they were facing the possibility of complete defeat. Dr. Harper's analysis of the captured data revealed something that shocked everyone. The Zephyrian Empire was not the unstoppable force they pretended to be. They were actually in decline. Having exhausted the resources of their homeworld through centuries of expansion, Earth represented a crucial prize that they desperately needed. "They're not conquering for glory or power," Lisa explained to the Joint Resistance Council. "They're running out of resources and looking for new worlds to exploit. If they lose, here it might mean the collapse of their entire empire." This knowledge changed the nature of the war. Humanity was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting against an empire that was already crumbling from within. The question was whether Earth could hold out long enough for the Zephyrian Empire to collapse entirely. Alex Chen's team made another breakthrough when they successfully infiltrated the main alien communication network. The intelligence they gathered painted a picture of an empire in crisis. Other worlds were beginning to rebel, inspired by news of Earth's resistance. "We're not alone," Alex announced to the world, via every remaining communication channel. "There are other species fighting back across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire is facing rebellions on multiple fronts." The psychological impact was enormous. Humans around the world realized that their fight was part of a larger galactic war for freedom. They were not just defending Earth. They were part of a movement that could liberate countless worlds from Zephyrian oppression. Admiral Kethvar received increasingly desperate communications from the consortium leadership. The Earth operation was draining resources needed for other fronts. Worse, news of human resistance was inspiring rebellions on worlds that had been pacified for decades. "These humans are a disease," Kethvar reported to his superiors. "Their refusal to surrender is spreading to other species. If we do not crush them completely, the entire empire could be at risk." But crushing humanity was proving impossible. Every day brought new setbacks, new defeats, new proof that these primitive creatures were unlike any species the Zephyrians had ever encountered. As the 3rd month of the war ended, the balance of power was shifting. Humans had learned to fight with alien weapons, fly alien ships, and hack alien computers. They had turned the invaders' own technology against them. More importantly, they had learned that the seemingly invincible Zephyrian Empire was actually vulnerable. The aliens who had come to collect slaves were discovering that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could handle. They had awakened humanity's determination to be free, no matter the cost. The war entered its 4th month with humanity no longer playing defense. For the first time since the invasion began, human forces were launching coordinated offensive operations against alien strongholds. The hunters had become the hunted. Dr. Lisa Harper's neural disruption technology had been refined and mass-produced in hidden factories across the globe. The devices were now small enough to be worn like backpacks, and every resistance fighter carried at least one. The psychological effect on Zephyrian forces was devastating. Their soldiers never knew when their technology might suddenly fail, leaving them helpless against human attacks. Fear is a weapon we never expected to use, Lisa told her research team in their underground Colorado facility. The aliens built their entire military around technological superiority. Take that away and they become scared, confused, and ineffective. Meanwhile, Alex Chen's reverse engineering project had achieved what many thought impossible. The first human-built spacecraft incorporating alien propulsion technology lifted off from a secret launch facility hidden in the Australian desert. The hybrid ships were crude compared to Zephyrian vessels, but they could fly and fight in space. We're not trying to match their technology exactly, Alex explained to the engineering teams via secure video link. We're combining their advanced systems with human ingenuity. Our ships might not be as elegant, but they're designed by people who understand warfare. The pilot of the first successful test flight was Maria Santos, the former Air Force officer, who had nearly died learning to interface with alien technology. Her ship was a patchwork of human engineering and alien components, held together by determination and creative welding. It flies like a brick with rockets attached, Maria reported after her maiden voyage. But it's our brick and it can shoot back. Colonel Rick Hayes was preparing for the most ambitious operation of the war, the liberation of New York City. The aliens had turned Manhattan into a fortress, using the island's natural barriers to create an impregnable stronghold. But Hayes had learned that no fortress was truly impregnable if you understood your enemy's weaknesses. They think in straight lines, Hayes explained to his assembled commanders. They fortify the obvious approaches and expect us to attack where they're strongest, but we're not going to play by their rules. The assault began before dawn on a foggy October morning. Instead of attacking the bridges and tunnels, Hayes led his forces through the subway system, using maintenance tunnels and forgotten passages to emerge directly inside the alien perimeter. The Zephyrians had sensors that could detect large groups, moving above ground, but they had never considered that humans might attack from below. The urban warfare that followed showcased everything humanity had learned about fighting aliens. Small teams used neural disruptors to disable alien technology, then attacked with captured weapons and human ingenuity. The aliens' rigid tactical doctrine proved useless against human creativity and adaptability. Block by block, building by building, the aliens were pushed back toward their landing sites. Hayes coordinated the assault from a commandeered alien vehicle, using their own communication systems to confuse and misdirect enemy forces. Ben Cole's International Resistance Network executed the largest coordinated operation in human history, working with Pete Walsh in London, Ivan Petrov in Moscow, and Marie Dubois in Paris. They launched simultaneous strikes against alien processing facilities on 3 continents. The operation, dubbed Freedom Day, was timed to occur at the exact moment when the aliens' communication satellites would be in optimal position for jamming. Alex Chen's hackers had infiltrated the satellite network weeks earlier, waiting for the perfect opportunity to blind the entire Zephyrian communication system. When the attacks began, alien forces across the globe found themselves cut off from their command structure. Local commanders were forced to make decisions without guidance from their superiors, something their rigid training had never prepared them for. In London, Pete Walsh led a team of former Special Forces soldiers in a lightning raid on the facility that had been built in Hyde Park. Using tactics perfected in the mountains of Afghanistan, they moved like ghosts through the alien defenses, striking where the enemy least expected. Ivan Petrov's assault on the Moscow facility demonstrated the power of industrial knowledge turned toward warfare. His team of factory workers and engineers had built improvised weapons from farming equipment and industrial machinery. To the aliens, facing an attack by humans wielding modified combine harvesters and improvised flamethrowers was completely outside their tactical experience. Marie Dubois, coordinated the liberation of the facility near Paris with military precision learned during her years in the Foreign Legion. Her forces moved in coordinated waves, each team building on the success of the previous assault until the entire complex was under human control. The psychological impact of Freedom Day was enormous. Over 100,000 enslaved humans were freed in a single day, and the aliens lost 7 major installations. More importantly, the coordinated nature of the attacks demonstrated that human resistance was no longer a collection of scattered groups, but a unified global force. Captain Jake Morrison watched the operation unfold from his command center deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. Intelligence reports flooded in from around the world, painting a picture of alien forces in disarray. For the first time since the invasion began, the Zephyrians were retreating from positions they had held for months. "They're not used to losing," Morrison told his staff. "Their entire military doctrine is based on intimidation and overwhelming force. When that fails, they don't have a backup plan." The aliens' psychological stress was becoming evident to human observers. Captured Zephyrian soldiers showed signs of what humans would recognize as combat fatigue and post-traumatic stress. They had been trained to conquer compliant populations, not to fight a species that refused to admit defeat. Admiral Kethvar received an ultimatum from the Galactic Consortium: end the Earth operation within 30 days, or face recall and court-martial. The expedition that was supposed to have been completed in weeks had turned into a months-long nightmare that was draining resources from other fronts. But Kethvar's problems were about to get much worse. Captain Morrison authorized the most daring operation of the war, a direct assault on the alien flagship itself. The mission was led by Maria Santos, flying one of the new hybrid spacecraft, supported by a squadron of human pilots who had learned to operate captured alien fighters. Their target was the massive command ship that hung in orbit above the ruins of Washington, D.C. The space battle that followed was humanity's first victory in orbital combat. Human pilots, trained in three-dimensional thinking by years of flight simulators and video games, proved more adaptable than alien pilots who had been programmed with rigid tactical responses. Maria Santos managed to penetrate the flagship's defenses and board the ship with a team of Marines led by Sergeant Mike Patterson, a former force reconnaissance specialist. The hand-to-hand combat inside the alien vessel was brutal, but humans proved superior in close-quarters fighting. The intelligence gathered from the captured flagship was priceless. Complete star charts showing every Zephyrian outpost, detailed information about the Empire's military capabilities, and most importantly, confirmation that the invasion force was operating without reinforcements. "They're alone out here," Alex Chen announced after analyzing the captured data. "This is their entire expeditionary force. There are no reinforcements coming, and they're running out of supplies." But the most significant discovery was the location of the Zephyrian homeworld and the routes back to consortium space. For the first time, humans had the ability to take the war to the enemy's doorstep. Dr. Harper's analysis of the captured alien biological samples revealed another crucial weakness. The Zephyrians were a dying species, their population declining due to environmental damage on their homeworld. The conquest of other worlds was not just about resources, it was about survival. "They're desperate," Lisa explained to the Global Resistance Council. "This isn't just imperialism, it's the last gasp of a civilization that destroyed its own planet and is trying to steal ours." As the 4th month of the war ended, the situation had reversed completely. The aliens who had come to Earth expecting easy conquest found themselves facing defeat. Their technology had been captured and copied, their tactics countered and their psychological advantages neutralized. Admiral Kethvar, studying the latest casualty reports in his damaged flagship, realized that his superiors in the consortium had been right about one thing. Earth was indeed a unique world, but not in the way they had expected. These humans were not suitable for slavery, because they possessed something the Zephyrian Empire had forgotten in its centuries of expansion: the absolute refusal to surrender their freedom, no matter the odds against them. The tide of war had turned, and humanity was no longer content with merely surviving. They had learned to fight with alien weapons, fly alien ships, and think like aliens when necessary. Now they were ready to take the next step. They were ready to ensure that no alien force would ever threaten Earth again. The final assault began at dawn on New Year's Day. It seemed fitting to humanity that they would start the new year by driving the last of the alien invaders from Earth. After 6 months of war, the Zephyrian occupation was about to end. Colonel Rick Hayes stood in the ruins of what had once been the United Nations building, now converted into the command center for the final operation. Around him, officers from every nation on Earth coordinated the simultaneous strikes that would eliminate the remaining alien strongholds. "This is it," Hayes announced to his assembled commanders. "Today we finish what they started." The neural disruptors that Dr. Lisa Harper had perfected were now deployed in massive arrays around every remaining alien position. The devices had been refined to the point where they could disable entire bases with the flip of a switch. When the signal was given, Zephyrian technology across the globe would simply stop working. In space, Captain Maria Santos led the human fleet that had been built from captured alien technology and human ingenuity. 37 ships hung in Earth's orbit, each one crewed by volunteers who had learned to think like aliens when necessary and fight like humans when it mattered. "All ships report ready," Maria announced over the fleet communication system. "Let's show these bastards what happens when you mess with Earth." The ground assault began with the activation of Dr. Harper's neural disruptors. Across the planet, alien soldiers suddenly found themselves cut off from their technology, their weapons dead, their communication systems silent. For species that had relied on technological superiority for centuries, the experience was devastating. Ben Cole led the assault on the primary alien command center in what had once been Geneva. His international team moved with precision born of months of fighting together. Pete Walsh's British forces secured the perimeter, while Ivan Petrov's Russians cleared the outer defenses. Marie Dubois coordinated the French resistance fighters, who had become experts at urban combat. The battle was almost anticlimactic. Without their technology, the Zephyrians were just frightened beings far from home, trying to understand how their certain victory had become complete defeat. Many surrendered without fighting. Others fled toward their remaining ships, hoping to escape a world that had become their nightmare. In New York, Hayes personally led the final assault on the alien fortress that had been built in Central Park. The structure was a testament to Zephyrian engineering, but it had been designed to repel external attacks, not to contain panicked aliens trying to escape internal chaos. "They built a prison for us," Hayes told his Marines as they entered the complex. Turns out they built it for themselves. The space battle was more challenging. Admiral Cathvar had consolidated his remaining ships into a defensive formation above the North Pole, hoping to fight his way clear of Earth's gravity well and retreat to consortium space. But Maria Santos and her pilots had learned to fight in 3 dimensions, using tactics that no alien military academy had ever taught. Human fighters swarmed around the larger Zephyrian vessels like angry wasps, striking at critical systems, and then darting away before return fire could be coordinated. "Remember," Maria broadcast to her pilots, "these ships were built by people who never expected to face real opposition. Find the weak spots and exploit them." The flagship battle was personal. Santos had volunteered for the most dangerous mission, boarding Cathvar's command ship and ensuring that the alien admiral would never threaten another world. She led a team of 20 Marines through the ship's corridors, fighting past automated defenses and desperate alien soldiers. The hand-to-hand combat was brutal. But humans had learned that Zephyrians were physically weaker than they appeared. Their crystalline skin was hard but brittle, and they had never developed the kind of close-quarters fighting skills that humans had perfected over millennia of warfare. Admiral Cathvar made his final stand on the bridge of his flagship. The alien commander who had expected an easy conquest faced a human woman who had learned to fly his own ships better than his trained pilots. "Your species will pay for this insolence," Cathvar hissed through his translator. "The consortium has fleets that could destroy your entire world." Maria Santos looked at the broken alien admiral with something approaching pity. "Maybe they do," she said, "but you'll never see them again." The battle for the flagship ended when Alex Chen's computer virus, uploaded through the ship's own systems, took control of the vessel's life support and navigation. The Zephyrian crew found themselves breathing recycled air, while their ship's computers played human music and displayed images of Earth's natural beauty. Back on the planet's surface, Dr. Harper was analyzing the final pieces of alien technology. Her team had learned enough about Zephyrian science to understand something that even the aliens themselves had forgotten. Their empire was dying not because of external threats, but because they had lost the ability to innovate. "They're a species in decline," Lisa explained to the global council that had formed to coordinate Earth's post-war government. "They conquered so many worlds that they forgot how to create, how to grow, how to change. All they know is how to take from others." The last alien stronghold fell as the sun set over Earth. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his command center as resistance forces around the world reported the same message: mission accomplished. The Zephyrian invasion was over, but humanity's leaders knew that simply defeating the invaders was not enough. Admiral Kethavar's threats about consortium fleets were not empty. Earth needed to prepare for the possibility that other alien forces might come looking for revenge. Alex Chen presented the solution during an emergency session of the new Global Defense Council. His engineering teams had not only learned to build ships using alien technology, they had improved upon it by combining Zephyrian science with human creativity. "We're not going to wait for them to come back," Alex announced. "We're going to take the fight to them." The star charts captured from Kethavar's flagship revealed the locations of every Zephyrian outpost and the routes to other conquered worlds. More importantly, they showed that many of those worlds were already in rebellion, inspired by news of Earth's successful resistance. Ben Cole, now appointed as Earth's first director of interplanetary operations, outlined the plan that would ensure humanity's long-term survival. "We're going to warn every species we can find about the Zephyrian threat, and we're going to help them fight back." The first human interstellar vessel launched 6 months after the end of the invasion. The ship was built from a combination of captured alien technology and human engineering, crewed by volunteers who understood that Earth's security depended on ensuring that no alien empire could threaten human freedom again. Maria Santos served as the ship's captain, leading a crew that included former resistance fighters, captured Zephyrian technology specialists and volunteers from every nation on Earth. Their mission was simple: find other worlds under alien oppression and teach them what humanity had learned about fighting back. Dr. Harper developed a final gift for Earth's former oppressors. The neural feedback virus that her team created was designed to be transmitted through the same bio-neural interfaces that the Zephyrians relied on for their technology. Any alien who tried to use captured human equipment would experience the full chaotic storm of human consciousness. "Let them try to enslave us again," Lisa said as she watched the virus upload into the abandoned alien systems. "They'll find that human thinking is more contagious than they ever imagined." Admiral Kethavar spent his final days in a holding facility built from his own flagship's materials. The alien commander, who had expected to collect human slaves, found himself imprisoned by the very species he had tried to conquer. "How?" he asked Captain Morrison during one of their final conversations. "How did a primitive species defeat the might of the consortium?" Morrison looked at the broken alien admiral with something approaching sympathy. "You made one mistake," he said. "You assumed that having better technology made you better than us. But technology is just a tool. What matters is the will to use it." The war crimes trials that followed were broadcast across human space, ensuring that other species would understand what had happened to the Zephyrian invasion force. The message was clear: Earth would defend itself and its allies with whatever force was necessary. As the first human ships departed for distant stars, carrying weapons, warnings, and the promise of aid to oppressed worlds, the people of Earth looked up at the night sky with new understanding. They were no longer alone in the universe, but they were no longer helpless either. The aliens had come to Earth looking for slaves. Instead, they had awakened humanity's determination to ensure that no species would ever be enslaved again. The galaxy was about to learn that humans made better allies than enemies, but far worse enemies than slaves. Ben Cole stood in the same Montana field where he had first seen the alien ships descend from the sky. Now, human vessels rose toward the stars, carrying the promise that Earth's hard-won freedom would be shared with any world willing to fight for it. They came here thinking we'd make good slaves, Ben said to his gathered staff. Instead, they gave us the stars. Now it's our turn to teach the galaxy what happens when you underestimate the human spirit.